Welcome to History Nuts. I'm Russ Carson Jr., the founder of Family Tree Nuts. At Family Tree Nuts, we build family trees for people, and we produce videos at historic locations and videos that help to honor your ancestors.
I'm Jameson Cable, founder of the Kentucky History Podcast, where we talk about anything Kentucky history, events, people. If it has to do with Kentucky, we're going to discuss it.
And we've teamed up together to bring you History Nuts.
History Nuts is a live show where we talk about, you guessed it, history.
Right. History seems to be less and less to people today, but we are trying to do everything we can to keep it alive.
Absolutely. History is a passion of ours for sure, but it connects to you. Russ, tell us about the best part of the show.
You can join in. You can comment and ask questions live.
We've got a great topic today, and we know you're going to enjoy this episode of
History Nuts. Hey everybody, this is Russ Carson Jr. with Family Tree Nuts, and I am really excited about this actual live video we're doing right here. I'm with my buddy Jameson Cable, who does a Kentucky history podcast. Now, I don't know about you, but in my circle of friends, I don't know anybody that knows more about history than I do. But I know that when I listen to their podcast, I learn tons of stuff. To be honest with you, I can't have any other distractions. I drive and I got to listen and I rewind and write it down. But Jameson, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
Well, thanks, Russ. I'll say this too. I'm a big fan of Family Tree Nuts as well. I get the live notifications and try to watch as many videos as I can. But as far as myself, I teach 5th grade at Crab Orchard Elementary, and for the longest time, my coworker was a man named James Pope. And we would have these conversations all the time about Kentucky history, just sitting out at recess, talking about things. And then one day I was like, you know what, we need to start us a podcast and start talking about this stuff. Because we all had history lessons in school. And you can remember maybe, hopefully, that in 5th grade you had, Kentucky history. If you're from Kentucky, I would assume it's similar in other states. But, we talked about the basic stuff, Daniel Boone, Simon Kenton, those basic things. And as you get older, me and Mr. Pope, of course, as well, discover there's so much more. There's so much more to Kentucky's history, and which is going to be part of what we're going to talk about today. But there's so much more to it. And we thought doing a podcast would maybe bring some light to some of the history, maybe you could call it the forgotten history of Kentucky, history that you just don't get in school. And we can talk about school and all that later, but that's kind of where the podcast came from. And yeah, it's been successful so far. So we're branching out as many ways as we can.
You're definitely right. A lot of people have told me, they're like, man, if they would teach history like this in school, that we would have a lot more people pay attention to that. So yeah. I want to, and I'm going to blow your mind with this question, Jamie. But a lot of our folks that watch our videos on our Facebook page and stuff are older, so they may not know what is a podcast. Mm-hmm. That's a very simple question. What is a podcast?
Well, that's the best question, or that is the golden question to a podcast, because people younger are probably a bit more familiar with podcasts. You can get them on your iPhone or your Android, whatever device you have. Pretty much has a podcast app, and if you don't have an app, you can download another app. So my best way, and I explained this to my dad, so hopefully this works out. It's basically like a radio show on your phone. You can't, sure. you can just listen to it anywhere. Plug in your earphones, some just like these. And you're able to listen to it anywhere you want. You can download it so you don't use your Wi-Fi or your data if that's necessary. But you can get them. I mean, there's loads of apps. If you have an iPhone, there's a purple icon or app. It's Apple Podcasts. Tap on it. Type in The Land Between the Meadows, Kentucky History Podcast, and our podcast is going to pop up. Same for an Android. You can go to Google Podcast. And if you want to, you can download Spotify, and you can type in the same thing. Our podcast is going to pop up, and you can listen to us. We put out episodes about once a week for sure. We have been a bit with the coronavirus and all this stuff, me and Mr. Pope haven't really got to get together face to face, which is the way we want to, record the podcast, because it's more organic that way. But we put out other stuff too. I've been doing a county by county history of Kentucky and focusing on like Lincoln County. We're going to be looking at Rockcastle and Garrett County next. We do that. And also we have some guests on every now and then to talk about a book or something like that as well. So
sure,
you can download the app if you don't have it and listen away.
And what was the name of it again?
The Land Between the Meadows. Oh, The Land Between the Meadows. Kentucky.
And what is, all right. Why is it called The Land Between the Meadows? I know.
Oh, well, back in hundreds of years ago, the Native Americans referred to Kentucky. I think it was pronounced Kentucky or something like that. I mean,
Kentucky.
Yeah.
Kentucky, yes.
And that means meadows, and the meadows was Kentucky was the hunting ground for many Native American tribes, and they called it basically the meadows, which means Kentucky, and so it's the land between the meadows. That's
I think that's pretty cool.
It's the name from.
And I like that, and it's memorable too. Kind of thing. I really like that. But we have planned. Matter of fact, we've got multiple locations picked, scripts written. We're going to do some videos together, but the coronavirus put a little damper on that. With things, but. Soon that you're going to be a face that we see on here on Family Tree Nuts quite a bit with your expertise of all kinds of locations around there. So we're really looking forward to that kind of thing. And I think you said that we're going to do some kind of a giveaway too. Do you want to announce that now?
Well, we're going to give away a book, The Frontiersman, and if I can share it real quickly, I'll show it to the audience so that they know what exactly we're talking about. I think if they can see it right there, The Frontiersman by Alan W. Eckerd. A really good book. We talk about it a lot during our podcast. And you can use it as a reference too, as a historical reference. But it isn't necessarily like it's a narrative. It's a story about Daniel Boone and Simon Kenton and Simon Girty. Tecumseh is mentioned in it as well. All these big historical people. But it's not like, there is a bit of a drama added. I would say that to that extent. It's not like 100% accurate, but it's a really good read, a really good book. I know you've read it, haven't you?
Oh yeah. I'll talk about that here in just a second. It's not just Kentucky either. It's it's Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Tennessee, Indiana. Stuff's in those books. So it's a whole series of books. But so that book has either made my life or ruined my life. I don't know what. In seventh grade, our history teacher read sections of that book, and man, that really that's probably the biggest reason that spurned my history interest. So that book has had a tremendous impact, I guess, on my everyday life. But so we're going to give away a copy of that book, and how do they win?
Well, very simply, and hopefully this all works out well. But all you got to do, once we finish this video and wrap it up, share it, and that'll get you entered. Or you could go to your Facebook page, like it, or my Facebook page, like it, or if you want to follow me on Twitter, @KYHistoryPod, that'll enter you as well. So if you do all 5 of those or 4 of those, we'll put your name in there 4 times. So each one you do, we'll put your name in there, and hopefully you get picked, or we'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
This video will announce that, I guess, right? Because this won't be the last one with you and I don't think so.
Yeah.
But, I'll go to some comment, and we'll remind them that at the end too. I'll go to some comments here. We had Carl Asher. He says hello. Carl always tunes in. He's from, I believe, Clay County, down that way, or is it Brett? I think he's in Clay. Anyway, Patricia Garrett Giles says hi. Marilyn Nicholas says hello from Ohio. This history, keep it coming. Let's see here. CC DeBolt says hello from Wyandotte County, Ohio. We see Scott Denny, he's in Tennessee. Mary Sword, I think she's in West Virginia, maybe Southern Ohio, I'm not sure. Vicky Creel says, interesting. Sue's watching from Kentucky. So we got people from all over the place. If if you chime in, let us know where you're watching from, because we've got people that watch these videos in all 50 states and a whole bunch of countries too. So, but get into the topic of what we wanted to talk about today. It's really novel, and this is not a quote that I came up with myself. It's a quote I heard from Dr. John Fox, who's the president of Boone's Trace, the Friends of Boone's Trace Association, which you need to check them out too. But he didn't make it up either. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he said, "Is Kentucky the original Ellis Island of the United States?" And I said that to you, and you're like, "Wow, that is pretty interesting there." Because the Cumberland Gap, that the pioneer ancestors came through, was such a mass migration. What do you think about that? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, quick answer, yes, it is.
Right.
Longer answer, I mean, think about just migration and how it works in time, or how it's worked in history in general. We've talked about, or you most people know, I guess, about Thomas Walker, Daniel Boone, and paving the way. But you gave me the numbers earlier, and there's so many people came through the Wilderness Trace and Boone's Trace too, and so many avenues to Kentucky. And tell us the numbers there.
Well, it started in the early 1760s, with the Long Hunters and things that came through, and then of course the first settlements, the Transylvania Company and Boone, and then all the others that went up to Wilderness Road. But the numbers that they spit out there and there's different numbers you look at if you're looking at Wilderness Road numbers, Boone Trace numbers, Cumberland Gap numbers, but basically from until 1810, the estimates are about 300,000 pioneers poured through the Gap. Now, if you walk through the Gap, it's only 100 yards or less, across, kind of thing. Yeah. I think in some spots it's like 50 yards across. They pass right through there. And we're going to talk about the relevance of those people, but just some fast numbers. And I'm a numbers guy, I'm a statistics guy. We know the United States population at the time of the Revolution was about 2.5 million. If you do some research, you'll find out that the population grows all the way until 1810. So if you wanted to do some averages there, and if you took the amount of people, the average population between 1780 and 1810, that's going to give you about 6.3% of the population of the United States poured through the Gap. 6.3%.
That's a lot.
In today's numbers, that would be like 21 million people. If you imagine in the next 30 years, 21 million people pouring through into some other state or something like that.
Yeah.
So, just to give you an idea of the mass migration. So, why were all those people coming?
Well, that's a great question. Why were people leaving their settlements? And you can go back to Europe, why'd they come in the first place? But let's just talk about the original colonies, 13 colonies. Why were these people headed west? What was the thing? And it's very simple. It's got to do with survival. And you have let's just think of Virginia. Virginia has so much land that it can offer for a person. In modern time, you could live off half an acre of land. We get people living on top of each other in these huge apartment complexes. But back then, it wasn't that way. You had to have, if you have a family of 5 to 10 to even possibly 15 kids, you can't live off of an acre of land. You have to get more land. And as settlers came from Germany and England and France and Ireland and Scotland and all these places, the land that the states or the colonies had to offer got overpopulated, and you got to survive. So where am I going to go? You're not going to go live in the ocean. You're going to go west, and that's what that's the way it went.
And this was the first place they went. The first frontier. Kind of thing. That's arguable. It was the first frontier, but it's the first major frontier, And, we were illegally settling in areas that we weren't supposed to in East Tennessee, that, areas that was going to become the state of Franklin. But, and even all the illegal settlements that were in Kentucky at the time, in the beginning. But, we talk about that, and the reason why this is so relevant. Why is it Ellis Island? So what? A bunch of people poured through there. 300,000 people pulled through there. The reason that it's so daggone relevant to everybody watching this thing, I don't care where you live, is that they say that about 48 million of us can trace our ancestors to those that came to the Cumberland Gap. People don't realize that the mass migrations that came, in the 1780, 1810 into Kentucky, but many of those people only stayed a generation or so, or even less. Then they went on to Indiana and Illinois. The Lincolns were one. They came in, at 1807, I think his family came, but by 18 teens, they were living up in, I remember exactly, maybe 1820, living in Indiana, then Illinois. Then everybody poured into Missouri, went out 1830s, went to Oregon, in 1840s and 50s, California. So all those people, not all those people, but a tremendous amount of those people can trace their people that came through the Gap. So that's why this is such a hotbed for genealogy in here, because so many of us can, trace, like 20% of Americans can trace their ancestors to Cumberland Gap. That's phenomenal.
That is a crazy number to think about. And especially with I guess America being created land of immigrants as well. But I got a good story for you. The second governor of Kentucky, James Eckerd, his family lived in Virginia, and this exact scenario happened. That he had a big family, but they were moderately wealthy. But as their family got bigger, their wealth went down. So what does he do? He packs them up, comes through the wilderness trail, and pops up in Bourbon County, surveys 40,000 acres of land, and sets his family up. And that's what a lot of these people did. They were running out of land. They settled in Kentucky. Revolutionary War heroes, got land grants and so forth. And that's what they did. They then were able to get a whole lot of land and start anew. And the same thing happened as more people came to Kentucky. As you said, they eventually got up and went to Indiana, Missouri, Texas, and they moved farther west because oil land was already taken. So
sure,
it's very unique and very interesting how many people, or how many people in general, just have a connection to Kentucky. Right.
Absolutely. And from doing people's family trees, it's phenomenal how many people come through here. Even people up in north, kind of thing. Who became part of the the Great Migration in the 50s, in the 60s from Kentucky and West Virginia that moved up to Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, things like that, just for jobs and such. But it's a massive amount of people that have roots here. So at Ellis Island, I've been to Ellis Island, and it's moving, and it's a big deal, to the late 1800s, early 1900s, the amount of people that came through there looking for a better life. But in reality, this was the first, spot that people were coming through. And I just thought that was a neat idea and something that really made me think a whole lot. And I think that people will agree with that too.
Real quickly, I got a map here. I'm going to share just to give a reference. You can see here. I mean, this is the way people came in. You have the Wilderness Road right here, the orange that came up, and it was kind of the gateway. And if you think about I-75, if you look at I-75 here, it would come right down Lexington, right down the middle of Kentucky. And this was the I-75 of the 1700s. People rode in here and were able to settle into Crab Orchard and here Fort Logan, Fort Boonesboro. These were the Fort Hare. These were the main settlements. And as they went on, they kept on going. Or they kept on settling, I guess I should say. Oh, are we there? Hello? I'm going to keep talking. I can hear you, Jordan. I think Russ is out. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, what the big, I guess, I'm going to share this screen again. to talk a little bit more about the trace. But as people came in, they just settled in, and this was one of the main things. And think about having a group of 20, maybe 40, even sometimes as large as 100 people coming into Kentucky, and they all didn't have a set destination. I mean, they all were saying, "Hey, I'm going to go to Boonesboro," but as they came through, somebody may say, "Hey, me and my family are going to set up here. Me and my family are going to set up over here," and these little towns and communities all began to pop up. And throughout history, these towns, and they basically get bigger and become communities, cities, and so forth. And then on the flip side, you also have people coming down the Ohio River and beginning to settle on the banks of the Ohio, on the Kentucky and Ohio and Indiana side. So it's very interesting when you think of immigration and how much it just all connected to, or came through Kentucky, you could say. And I'm gonna see if I can. Nope. I think I'm back. Yep. Yeah, we're good.
You got me? Can you?
Russ is back. You back? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see myself, but
am I still good?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Yes.
I can hear you, but I can't see you. But yeah, no problem. And am I on there on the screen or? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Jameson.
Yeah. What do you got?
He said Scott Denny says, "Hey, he's a Tennessee guy with deep Kentucky roots." I'm gonna say.
Oh, Scott Denny. Oh, hey,
yeah, Scott Denny.
Thanks for watching, Scott.
He said he's a Tennessee guy with deep Kentucky roots.
Well, it's very interesting when you look at border states for Kentucky, because that's typically what happens a lot. Is you have somebody who lives on the border, like Middlesboro. That's a good community or a good town to think of. And a lot of people that live on these border states, or on the border of a state, they have a lot of the genealogy splits up, and you've got people in this state and that state, and it's very interesting when you get down to the specifics of which side of the fence you are on. We all, I mean, as a UK fan, I'm cool with Tennessee to an extent.
It also says there's a lot of people in the north trace to the Cumberland Gap, or did their ancestors come another way?
North? Did you say north?
There's a lot of people came from the north. Did people in the north come from the Cumberland Gap, or did they come the other way? A lot of them went to the Ohio River.
They went down to Ohio. A lot of people who came to the north probably came through Ohio. A lot of people in Pennsylvania would have come around the Appalachian Mountains in Pennsylvania, and then came down to Ohio. Most of the people, and even as I look into Kentucky, I guess, figures, you can tell a lot of people came from Virginia and Maryland and South Carolina, North Carolina. But the northern people came because a lot of Germans were from Pennsylvania and settled in Pennsylvania, and they came down. And you look at places like Augusta and Cincinnati, Newport, those towns, you're going to have a lot more German influence. As far as Virginia, most of those, and Russ, you can correct me on this, most of those people came from Scotland, Ireland, and you have a lot more, or at least from the people I've looked into, there's a lot more Scottish-Irish connection genealogically. Yeah. It
came through the Cumberland Gap?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That tremendously Scots-Irish, and the reason for that is, and there's a lot of German too, but the reason for that, apparently they can hear me, but they can't see me, and that's okay. So that's probably better anyway. Okay, do me do that, Jameson. I'm going to leave it and come back, and then if you want to, I'll come back to that because that's a real good story.
Okay. Well, I'll make a plug. All right. Real quickly, while Russ joins us back. You can connect to me or the Land Between the Meadows at KY History Pod. If you go to Twitter, you can search that at KY History Pod. You go just type in Facebook, type in at KY History Pod, and you'll go right to our page. So we appreciate any like or share as far as those methods go. But Russ, you back? Oh, not yet. Oh, he was too quick. But anyway, that's the thing. If you ever, as far as podcast goes too, you can look up just about any podcast platform we're on, and you can check that out as well. We also have a YouTube channel too, Kentucky History Channel, if you want to watch some videos. I've been putting up videos about local or about governors of Kentucky and so forth. And I really like family tree nuts and kind of, I guess, my end of history, I guess you could say. Because with family tree nuts, you get that person that you don't know about, and most people wouldn't know about even if they tried to search and find out information. So you get a more in-depth perspective of an individual, which is very unique. As somebody that's probably only close to a family that's going to be interested. On my end, though, we kind of look at the bigger picture people, governors, the frontiersmen that founded places, Benjamin Logan, Daniel Boone, those kind of events. So we have a really good contrast, a really good parallel whenever you think about history and genealogy together. On my end, we're looking at kind of bigger picture people, those kind of things. But on Russ's end, you're really getting down to this, this person that has a unique story that needs to be told. And I guess that's my plug for that. It's really good. It's a really good contrast, and I encourage if you listen to me or Russ to check out both, because you're going to find something that you like for sure. Russ is back.
I had to leave and come back. I heard you talking good about family tree nuts. Appreciate that. But did you talk about Scots Irish while I was gone or no?
I was leaving that for you.
All right, Scots Irish, and there's a great book out called Born Fighting. It's my favorite book. It's the impact the Scots Irish have had on America today. But really, really fast, 20 seconds about that. Lots of poor Irish, poor Scottish, poor Scots Irish, which is a total different thing. It's for another story. But the land companies recruited them to settle a little bit in the west of the Tidewater areas in Virginia and North Carolina, basically on that frontier, which would be the middle of those states, to be a buffer between the Indians, because they kept getting attacked by Indians. I'm talking about late 1600s, early 1700s, all into the mid 1700s. So those people right there, like you said, as they grew, those people didn't have anything, and those are the people that became somewhat native themselves in a lot of ways, that they fought. And those are the people that settled in Western Virginia, Western North Carolina, Western Maryland, even Pennsylvania, and where the Pennsylvania Dutch were. Those are the mass amount of people that first settled into Kentucky. So Kentucky is not a state that's tremendously mixed up with different ethnic backgrounds, I guess I should say. And we're definitely a diverse state like anywhere else. What I'm saying is that as a whole, when the migrations of Polish people, Russian people, Eastern Europeans, Asians, Indian folks, from all those people came in, they generally did not come to Kentucky. They went up north, went out west, California, New York, Philly, and stuff like that. So that was a little bit of a tangent on there, but definitely massively settled by the Scots Irish, and I myself am very, very much that. So that's why it's kind of a passion of myself. But let's see. We had here. We both. Somebody said that. Let's see here. They're talking about how they can see us. Where to go? Somebody's watching from. Love those Alan Eckerd books. Linda Nord's watching from Indiana with Kentucky ancestors. Melody Hare's watching from Winsboro, South Carolina. Sue says she hasn't read those books, but if she's going to read them if we recommend them, and kind of thing. So a lot of comments on there. I see people on there from looks like I would say 17 different states or something right now. So wow. I see Jay Walls is watching. He's the track coach at Midway University, doing great things up there with the Eagles. So, but
Midway's another good town that has loads of history, loads of good stuff.
Absolutely. That's it right in between Midway, between Lexington and Frankfort there. So, but anyway, is there anything else you wanted to say about the Cumberland Gap being Ellis Island, or?
I mean, it is. I guess.
Right.
That's my final verdict. Definitely influenced I mean, America in general. I mean, that you can't say it didn't have a huge impact. I mean, even you talk about people watching from Indiana, and I've seen people come on the show from Washington, and all those people. I mean, all the way from the West Coast, as far as you can go. Those people have some sort of connection to Kentucky and the Cumberland Gap, for sure.
Absolutely. And those numbers, again, roughly 6% of Americans, and if that was today, about 21 million people or something like that.
That's a lot.
Just to put an idea of the impact that was going on right there. Those people were incredibly desperate, take everything they had, all their weapons, their food, their food sources, their seeds, their forks, everything, to go through there. And we read something in history, but we don't think about it.
Yeah.
We don't oh yeah, they came through the Gap. Yeah, okay, and they lived there for 10 years. But man, these people just imagine going out to the state park and going out in the woods out there, and man, you got to build a life from that. You know, and the only thing you have is what you could probably put on a small wagon, so it's just fascinating to think, and that was your people, that's who you are inside. So anyway, I'm passionate about that, so I'll shut up. So make sure you check out Jamison's Facebook, Twitter, their podcast. I'll let you talk about that there. Go ahead, Jameson, do your thing again.
Facebook, Twitter, at KY History Pod. You can find us on YouTube, Kentucky History Channel, search that as well. Podcasts on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can, if you have a smartphone, you can download any of those apps and search our podcast.
Absolutely, definitely. And I will actually be, give the people the warning. You're going to spend some time on there, so be prepared for that. So a lot of people like doing that when they're driving, I guess. LaVonna Haynes said Skaggs Trace was a major way over the Cumberland Gap. Yeah, she's right. That's part of the, Boone Trace, Wilderness Road, split off. Skaggs probably doesn't get as much credit as he should. I don't want to go on another tangent, but Skaggs doesn't get as much credit as he should for being such an early pioneer into Kentucky. Jameson, what do you think? What's your idea? What's your idea for our next show we do together?
Well, we were talking about the immigrants coming over into Kentucky, and it just popped in my head to think about Native Americans and kind of their influence and impact on how things proceeded. I mean, we can get real deep about some of the, you could even say moral issues along with all of that. Along with Kentuckians coming over, and you could say they took their land. Were they in the right or wrong? I think we get into some good discussion about that, and I'll pause it there before I get ahead of myself and start just getting into a big spill about it.
Okay, but, definitely a touchy subject for lots of reasons and different points of view and things like that on there. Maybe I'll be the antagonist on that, and kind of thing. But because I kind of see the world in some ways. But and that's a big subject too. As a genealogist, I'm going to say this so nicely as I can. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have heard, and I probably hear this every day, sometimes multiple times a day. My great-great-grandmother's full-blooded Cherokee, and I have 6 articles saved on my phone right now to send to people to explain to them why that's the case in the area. But that's another show. I'll shut up.
Yes.
So anyway, make sure, Jameson said, make sure you like Land Between the Meadows' pages. All their Family Tree Nuts. Share this video. We'll put your name, and each time you do that, put your name for the giveaway of the book there. So The Frontiersman by Alan Eckerd. So anything you'd like to say before we sign off, Jameson?
I think I'm 3/8 Shawnee. I think
3/8. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's probably that haircut. Maybe that haircut is a big part of it, right? So.
I'm insinuating the fraction. The fraction doesn't make sense.
Right.
But anyway, Frontiersman's a good book. So share this link out, share the video out, and we'll get it out to you and do our best. This is my first time doing a giveaway, so bear with me.
Yes, sir. And we're going to see Jameson a lot more. Jameson's going to be doing a lot of videos with us at some historic locations and things. So I guess I'll sign us off here from now. And Jordan, I'm getting ready to sign off here, but you hear me, Jordan?
I sure do, Russ.
But yeah, tune into and touch base or follow our page here. We got a lot of good stuff coming. You checked yesterday's live video that was done by Amanda in South Carolina.
Real good. I watched that as well.
Oh man, I'm so excited. She did such a good job. She's got so many other things planned, and we've got Mary Grace out in Washington getting ready to do the same thing. But anyway, we'll sign off for now. And hey, everybody, remember, family tree nuts. Let our nuts find the nuts in your family tree.
Man, I wish I had written down Grandma's stories. How many times do we hear that statement? Way too often, our ancestors' priceless stories die with them and are lost forever. At Family Tree Nuts, we conduct and video document what we call life interviews. We sit down with your elder family member for hours and ask them questions all about their life, from their childhoods to the present day. What was their favorite thing to do for fun when they were a kid? Tell us about your grandparents. What places did you live? Who were your friends? How did you meet your spouse? The list is endless. Sometimes family members like to sit in on the interview and ask the questions. We professionally film, produce, and publish the interview into short story clips, as well as the full interview onto our YouTube channel. These videos are easy to be shared with all of your family, easy to find for the rest of your life, and your descendants will see them for centuries. You will always be able to go back and hear the stories of your family member in their own voices. Many times, the whole family chips in to have a life interview made for their family member. It makes a wonderful gift, and sometimes folks choose to have their own life interview made as a gift to their entire family. Imagine having a life interview made of your third great-grandfather that fought in the Civil War. Well, that's exactly what we're doing here. Your great-great-great-grandchildren are going to be able to watch the life interview. Don't live with regret after your loved one passes on. Honor them with a life interview. Contact us for details.